What if I told you that one simple shift in your thinking could completely change the direction of your life? Imagine waking up every morning believing not blindly but deeply that whatever happens today will somehow serve your growth. Suddenly fear loses its grip. Stress becomes lighter. Decisions become clearer. Opportunities appear where others only see obstacles. The most successful and peaceful people are not those with perfect lives. They are the ones who have trained themselves to trust the process, even when life looks uncertain. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may completely transform the way you face every challenge from this day forward, before anything bad has even happened. How many times have you already lived through it in your mind? Think about that for a moment. A single unanswered message becomes the end of a relationship. One small mistake becomes the beginning of failure. A delayed opportunity becomes proof that nothing will ever work out. The human mind has an incredible ability to create stories that feel completely real, even when they have no connection to reality. And sadly, many people spend more time suffering from imagined problems than from actual ones. The first step toward living with confidence is learning to stop expecting the worst before life has even had a chance to unfold. From the moment we wake up, our thoughts begin shaping our emotional state. If the first thing the mind does is search for danger, stress immediately follows. We start asking fearful questions. What if today goes badly? What if people judge me? What if I fail? What if everything falls apart? Without realizing it, we prepare ourselves for disappointment before the day has even begun. We enter ordinary situations carrying invisible fear, and that fear affects every decision we make. Imagine walking through a beautiful forest while wearing glasses covered in dark dust. No matter how bright the sunlight is, everything appears dull because the problem is not the forest. It is the lens through which you are looking. Life often works the same way. When the mind expects disaster, it begins interpreting every small event as evidence that something is wrong. A tiny obstacle suddenly feels like a huge crisis, not because reality has changed, but because fear has changed your perspective. There is a powerful truth that many people discover too late. Most of the things we worry about never actually happen. We spend hours imagining conversations that never take place, failures that never occur, and problems that disappear before they even arrive. Meanwhile, the peace we sacrifice during all that worrying can never be recovered. Fear steals today's joy by convincing us to live inside tomorrow's uncertainty. As wisdom grows, something begins to change. You stop believing every thought that enters your mind. You realize that just because a thought feels convincing does not mean it is true. The mind produces thousands of thoughts every day. Some are helpful, some are meaningless, some are simply fears wearing the disguise of certainty. Learning to question those fearful stories is one of the greatest forms of mental freedom. Consider how differently you would approach life if instead of expecting everything to go wrong, you quietly believed that things would somehow work out. You would speak with more confidence. You would make decisions with greater courage. You would take opportunities instead of avoiding them. Nothing outside of you has changed yet, but everything inside of you begins changing. Your energy becomes lighter because hope replaces constant tension. Another important lesson is understanding that worrying is not the same as preparing. Many people believe that if they worry enough, they are somehow protecting themselves from disappointment. But worry rarely solves problems. It simply drains the energy that could have been used to solve them. Preparation focuses on action. Worry focuses on fear. One builds confidence while the other weakens it. Over time, you begin training your mind to pause whenever fear appears. Instead of immediately believing the worst-case scenario, you ask yourself a better question. Do I know this is true, or am I only imagining it? That single question creates space between you and your fear. It reminds you that your thoughts are not always accurate reflections of reality. Sometimes they are simply old habits repeating themselves. There will always be uncertainty in life. No one can predict every outcome. But uncertainty does not have to become your enemy. In fact, uncertainty also contains possibility. The same future that could bring challenges could also bring unexpected opportunities, meaningful relationships, joyful moments, and blessings you cannot yet imagine. Fear only tells one side of the story. Hope reminds you that many beautiful possibilities exist as well. Gradually, your relationship with life begins changing. Instead of waking each morning expecting problems, you begin expecting growth. Instead of assuming every delay is a disaster, you become curious about what it might be teaching you. Instead of allowing fear to write the story before it begins, you give life the chance to surprise you. This mindset does not make you unrealistic. It makes you resilient. The strongest people are not those who never experience fear. They are the ones who refuse to let fear become the author of their lives. They acknowledge uncertainty, but they continue moving forward with calm confidence. They understand that imagination can either become a prison or a source of strength, depending on how it is used. When you stop expecting the worst before it happens, something extraordinary takes place. Your heart becomes lighter. Your decisions become clearer. Your mind becomes quieter. You no longer waste precious energy fighting battles that exist only in your imagination. Instead, you meet each new day with quiet trust, believing that whatever comes, you will find a way through it. And very often, life turns out far better than the fearful stories your mind once tried to make you believe. Have you ever stood in front of a closed door, convinced that life was being unfair to you, only to discover later that the door was closed for a reason? At the time, it feels like rejection. It feels like failure. It feels like everything you hoped for is slipping away. But as time passes, you often realize that what looked like a setback was actually protecting you, preparing you, or redirecting you towards something far better. This is one of the hardest lessons to accept, yet it is also one of the most powerful. Not every delay is a denial, and not every closed door is the end of your story. Most people are in a hurry. They want answers immediately. They want success quickly. They want every dream to happen according to their own schedule. When life moves slower than expected, frustration begins to grow. They compare their journey to everyone else's and start believing they are falling behind. But life is not a race where everyone reaches the finish line at the same time. Every person has a different path, a different pace, and different lessons that must be learned before the next chapter can begin. Imagine planting a seed in rich soil. You water it every day, give it sunlight, and care for it with patience. If you dig it up every morning just to check whether it has grown, you will only interrupt the process. Growth happens quietly beneath the surface, long before it becomes visible. Human life often follows the same pattern. There are seasons when it feels like nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, your character is being shaped, your wisdom is growing, and your future is slowly taking form. There are moments when disappointment makes you question everything. A job opportunity disappears. A relationship ends unexpectedly. A plan you work so hard for suddenly falls apart. In those moments, it is easy to believe that life has forgotten you. Yet, many people later look back and realize that those painful experiences were actually turning points. If the first opportunity had worked out, they would never have discovered the better one waiting ahead. If the relationship had lasted, they might never have found the peace they truly deserved. As emotional maturity grows, you begin seeing delays through a different lens. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" You start asking, what is this season preparing me for? That small change in perspective transforms waiting from something painful into something meaningful. You stop viewing delays as empty time and begin recognizing them as opportunities for growth. Another important truth becomes clear. Sometimes life slows you down because you are not yet ready for what you are asking for. Imagine receiving everything you wanted before developing the wisdom to handle it. Success without maturity can create arrogance. Opportunity without preparation can lead to failure. Responsibility without inner strength can become overwhelming. The waiting period often gives you exactly what you need to handle future blessings with confidence rather than fear. Think about the sunrise. No matter how desperately you want morning to arrive, the sun will not rise before its time. It follows its own rhythm without rushing or falling behind. Nature teaches this lesson everywhere. Flowers bloom in their own season. Rivers reach the ocean in their own time. Trees do not compare their growth with one another. They simply continue becoming what they were created to be. There is wisdom in that patience. One of the greatest sources of anxiety comes from trying to force life to happen according to your timetable. The more you resist reality, the more exhausted you become. But when you learn to trust the process, something beautiful happens. Your mind becomes calmer because you stop fighting every delay. You continue working hard, but you release the desperate need to control exactly when every result must appear. This does not mean becoming passive or giving up on your dreams. Trust is not the opposite of action. You still take meaningful steps every day. You continue learning, growing, improving, and moving forward. The difference is that your effort is no longer driven by panic. It is guided by confidence. You believe that every honest effort is planting seeds, even if you cannot yet see the harvest. Gradually, patience becomes one of your greatest strengths. You stop measuring your progress by how quickly things happen. Instead, you begin measuring it by who you are becoming along the way. Every challenge teaches resilience. Every delay teaches faith. Every obstacle develops wisdom. The journey itself becomes just as valuable as the destination. When you finally reach the place you once prayed for, you often realize that the waiting was never wasted. It gave you humility when success arrived. It gave you strength when responsibilities increased. It gave you gratitude because you understood the value of what you received. Without those lessons, the blessing might have been far less meaningful. A peaceful life begins when you stop seeing every delay as a punishment. Instead, you recognize that some doors close to protect you. Some opportunities arrive later to prepare you. And some seasons of waiting are quietly building the person you need to become. Trusting life's timing does not remove every challenge, but it removes the unnecessary suffering created by constant resistance. And when you learn to believe that every delay has a purpose, you no longer fear the waiting. You begin to grow through it with patience, confidence, and quiet hope. What if the life you experience every day is influenced less by what happens to you and more by the energy you bring into each moment? Think about it. Two people can walk through the exact same situation and leave with completely different experiences. One sees only obstacles, disappointment, and reasons to give up. The other notices opportunities, lessons, and reasons to keep moving forward. The difference is not always the circumstances. More often, it is the mindset they carry into those circumstances. The energy you choose each day quietly shapes the way you experience the world. Most people believe that they will become positive after life improves. They tell themselves, when I get the job, then I'll feel confident. When I have more money, then I'll be grateful. When everything finally goes my way, then I'll have peace. But life rarely works like that. Peace is not something that magically appears after perfect circumstances arrive. It is something you choose to practice long before life becomes easy. Imagine entering a room with a small candle in your hand. No matter how dark the room is, that tiny flame immediately changes the atmosphere. It may not remove every shadow at once, but it makes it possible to see where you are going. Your thoughts work in a similar way. A hopeful mindset does not erase every challenge, but it gives you enough clarity to keep taking the next step instead of becoming trapped by fear. There is an important truth that many people overlook. Your mind is constantly searching for evidence to support whatever you already believe. If you believe life is against you, your attention naturally focuses on disappointments. Every setback becomes proof that nothing ever works out. But if you believe that every experience contains an opportunity to grow, your mind begins noticing lessons, possibilities, and unexpected blessings that others completely miss. The reality around you may be the same, but your perception changes everything. As emotional awareness grows, you begin understanding that energy is contagious. Have you ever noticed how one negative person can change the mood of an entire room? In the same way, one calm and hopeful person can bring peace into situations filled with stress. This is why protecting your inner state matters so much. The energy you carry does not stay inside you. It influences your conversations, your relationships, your decisions, and even the way people respond to you. Another powerful realization begins to take shape. Gratitude is not just a pleasant feeling. It is a way of training the mind. Every time you intentionally notice something good, you strengthen your ability to recognize more good in the future. It could be a peaceful morning, a kind word from someone, good health, or simply another chance to begin again. These moments may seem small, but together they create a mindset that refuses to be controlled by negativity. This does not mean pretending that problems do not exist. Optimism is not about ignoring reality. It is about refusing to let difficult moments become your entire reality. A wise person can acknowledge pain without surrendering hope. They can admit that life is challenging while still believing that better days are possible. This balance creates resilience because it keeps the heart open even during difficult seasons. Think about a gardener once more. The gardener cannot control the weather, but they can control how they care for the garden. Some days bring sunshine, while others bring storms. Yet the gardener continues watering, removing weeds, and protecting the soil. Eventually growth appears because attention remained focused on what could be influenced rather than what could not. Your mind deserves the same care. The thoughts you nurture today become the beliefs that shape your tomorrow. As you continue this journey, you stop allowing every negative event to define your mood. One bad conversation no longer ruins your entire day. One setback no longer convinces you that everything is falling apart. Instead, you remind yourself that a single chapter never tells the whole story. This simple habit creates emotional stability because your peace is no longer dependent on perfect circumstances. Over time, people begin noticing something different about you. They see your calmness when others panic. They notice your hope during uncertainty. They admire your ability to remain steady even when challenges appear. What they may not realize is that this strength did not come from having an easier life. It came from making a daily decision to guard your thoughts and protect the energy you carry into each situation. Perhaps the greatest lesson is understanding that every morning offers a new choice. You can begin the day expecting failure, focusing on fear and preparing for disappointment. Or you can begin with gratitude, confidence, and quiet trust that whatever happens will somehow contribute to your growth. One path drains your spirit before the day even begins. The other fills you with the courage to face whatever comes. When you choose your energy wisely, you do more than improve your mood. You transform the way you live. You become more aware of opportunities, more patient with challenges, and more appreciative of the present moment. Life may still bring uncertainty, but your response becomes your greatest strength. And when your heart is filled with hope instead of fear, you discover that the world often begins reflecting back the same energy you choose to carry within yourself. How many dreams have been quietly buried, not because people lacked talent, but because they kept waiting for the perfect moment that never came? Think about that. Somewhere in your life, there is probably a goal you have delayed, a conversation you have avoided, or an opportunity you have ignored because you believed you needed to feel more confident first. But what if confidence is not something you wait for? What if confidence is something you build by taking the first step, even while your hands are shaking? That single realization has the power to change everything. Many people believe that successful individuals are fearless. They imagine that those who achieve great things wake up every morning filled with certainty, never questioning themselves or doubting their decisions. The truth is very different. Almost everyone feels fear before stepping into something new. The difference is that courageous people refuse to let fear make their decisions for them. They understand that waiting until they feel completely ready often means waiting forever. Imagine standing at the edge of a cold river. The longer you stand there, thinking about how cold the water might be, the more difficult it becomes to step in. Your imagination keeps creating reasons to stay where you are. But the moment you finally take that first step, you realize that reality is often far less frightening than the stories your mind created. Life works in much the same way. Fear grows while you stand still. Action begins to shrink it. There is a quiet trap that many people fall into without realizing it. They tell themselves, "I'll begin when I know enough. I'll speak when I'm more confident. I'll start when everything is perfectly planned." These thoughts sound responsible, but they often hide a deeper fear of failure. Days become months, months become years, and dreams remain untouched because they were constantly postponed in the name of preparation. As wisdom develops, you begin understanding that clarity rarely comes before action. More often, clarity appears because of action. Every step teaches something that thinking alone never could. Every mistake becomes a lesson. Every challenge develops strength. Progress is created by movement, not by endless planning. You cannot learn to swim by reading books about water. Eventually, you have to step into the river. Another powerful truth begins to emerge. Perfection is one of the greatest enemies of progress. When you expect every decision to be flawless, you place impossible pressure on yourself. Suddenly, every small mistake feels like proof that you should quit. But those who grow the most understand that mistakes are not evidence of failure. They are evidence that you are learning. Every expert was once a beginner who dared to keep moving despite making countless errors. Think about a child learning to walk. No one expects perfection on the first attempt. Falling is accepted as part of the process. The child stands up again, takes another step, falls once more, and keeps trying until walking becomes natural. Somewhere along the journey into adulthood, many people forget this lesson. They become afraid of looking inexperienced, so they stop trying altogether. Yet growth has always belonged to those who are willing to be beginners. As your mindset changes, courage starts looking different. It is no longer about feeling fearless. It is about choosing movement despite uncertainty. You begin making decisions based on your values instead of your fears. You understand that every meaningful achievement requires stepping into situations where the outcome is unknown. That uncertainty is not a sign to stop. It is often a sign that you are growing beyond your comfort zone. Life also teaches that opportunities rarely wait forever. Some doors remain open only for a season. If you spend all your time doubting yourself, you may miss chances that could have changed your future. This does not mean acting recklessly. It means recognizing that thoughtful action is always more powerful than endless hesitation. Every small step creates momentum, and momentum has a remarkable way of building confidence over time. Gradually, you begin trusting yourself more, not because you suddenly know all the answers, but because you have proven that you can handle whatever happens next. You realize that even if things do not go exactly as planned, you are capable of adapting, learning, and continuing forward. This quiet self-trust becomes stronger than fear because it is built through experience rather than imagination. One day you may look back and realize that the moments which changed your life were not the times when everything was certain. They were the moments when you chose to move forward despite uncertainty. Those decisions shaped your character, expanded your abilities, and opened doors that would have remained closed if you had continued waiting. The people who create meaningful lives are not those who possess perfect confidence from the beginning. They are the ones who understand that action comes first and confidence follows. They stop waiting for fear to disappear and instead teach themselves to walk alongside it. With every courageous step, doubt becomes smaller, wisdom becomes greater, and possibilities that once seemed impossible begin turning into reality. When you trust yourself enough to act before everything feels certain, life has a remarkable way of meeting your courage with opportunities you never expected. What if the greatest source of your stress is not the problems in your life, but your constant attempt to control things that were never meant to be under your control? Think about how much energy is spent worrying about other people's opinions, unexpected events, the future, or mistakes from the past. We hold on tightly, believing that if we think hard enough or worry long enough, somehow life will become more predictable. Yet, the opposite usually happens. The tighter we try to control everything, the more anxious and exhausted we become. Real peace begins the moment you stop fighting life and start working with it instead. Most people carry invisible burdens every day. They try to control how others feel about them. They try to predict every possible outcome before making a decision. They replay old conversations, wishing they could change words that have already been spoken. They spend sleepless nights imagining situations that may never happen. Without realizing it, they give away today's peace while chasing an impossible level of certainty that no human being can ever achieve. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you keep your hand relaxed, the sand stays where it is. But the harder you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. Life often behaves in exactly the same way. The more desperately you try to force every situation to unfold according to your plan, the more frustrated you become when reality chooses a different path. Sometimes the strongest hand is not the one that grips the hardest, but the one that knows when to loosen its hold. As wisdom begins to grow, you start recognizing an important distinction. There are things you can influence, and there are things you simply cannot control. You can control your attitude, your effort, your honesty, your discipline, and the way you respond to challenges, but you cannot control the weather, other people's choices, unexpected delays, or every outcome in life. The moment you clearly separate these two categories, your mind becomes lighter because you stop carrying responsibilities that never belong to you. There is a quiet freedom that comes from accepting reality instead of resisting it. Acceptance does not mean liking every situation. It does not mean giving up or refusing to improve your circumstances. It simply means acknowledging what is true in this moment without wasting energy fighting facts that cannot be changed. Only after accepting reality can you respond to it wisely instead of reacting emotionally. Think about a sailor crossing the ocean. The sailor cannot command the wind to blow in a certain direction, nor can they stop the waves from rising. Yet they still reach their destination because they adjust their sails instead of arguing with the sea. Life asks us to do the same. We may not control every event, but we always have the ability to choose our response. That choice is where true power lives. As emotional maturity develops, you stop asking questions that keep you trapped. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What is the best thing I can do right now?" That small shift transforms helplessness into action. Your attention moves away from what cannot be changed and toward what can actually improve your situation. Suddenly, your energy becomes productive instead of draining away through endless worry. Another lesson quietly reveals itself over time. Many of the things that once felt like disasters eventually became valuable teachers. The job you did not get pushed you toward a better opportunity. The relationship that ended created space for personal growth. The unexpected challenge developed strength you never knew you had. Looking back, you realize that life often understood something your limited perspective could not yet see. This realization makes it easier to trust the journey instead of trying to control every step. Gradually, your daily life begins to change. You stop checking for certainty before taking action. You stop expecting every plan to unfold perfectly. When unexpected problems arise, you no longer panic because you know uncertainty is part of being human. Instead of reacting with fear, you respond with calmness. You solve what you can solve, accept what you cannot change, and continue moving forward without carrying unnecessary emotional weight. The beautiful part of letting go is that it creates room for something much stronger than control. Trust. Trust in your ability to adapt. Trust that challenges can become lessons. Trust that not every unanswered question needs an immediate answer. Trust that even difficult seasons eventually pass. This quiet confidence cannot be shaken easily because it is no longer dependent on life being predictable. When you finally stop trying to control everything, you discover something unexpected. You do not become weaker, you become freer. Your mind grows quieter because it is no longer trapped in endless resistance. Your heart becomes lighter because it is no longer carrying impossible burdens. You begin focusing your energy where it truly matters. Your actions, your character, your choices, and your growth. And that is where real peace is found. Not in controlling every outcome, but in trusting yourself to handle whatever life brings with wisdom, courage, and a calm heart. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning with one quiet decision already made. No matter what happens today, I will trust that somehow it is leading me toward growth. Think about how different your life would feel. The same traffic, the same unexpected delays, the same difficult conversations might still appear, but your reaction would completely change. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you would begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That simple shift may seem small, but it has the power to transform the way you experience every single day of your life. Many people spend their lives waiting for certainty before they allow themselves to feel calm. They believe peace will arrive after every problem is solved, every goal is achieved, and every question has an answer. But life has never worked that way. There will always be another challenge waiting beyond the current one. If your happiness depends on perfect circumstances, you will spend most of your life chasing something that constantly moves further away. Lasting peace comes from learning to trust yourself and the journey. Even when the road ahead is unclear, picture a traveler walking through a dense forest before sunrise. At first, the path is difficult to see. The traveler cannot view the entire journey or every turn ahead, yet they continue moving because the small light they carry is enough to reveal the next few steps. They do not need to see the entire road to keep walking. Life often asks us to do the same. We rarely receive complete certainty about the future. Instead, we are given enough wisdom for today's decisions. The rest unfolds one step at a time. As this understanding deepens, fear begins losing its control over your daily life. You stop expecting every plan to unfold perfectly because you know that unexpected changes are part of every meaningful journey. Instead of resisting them, you begin adapting to them. You realize that flexibility is not weakness. It is one of the greatest strengths a person can develop. Those who bend with life's challenges often stand much longer than those who refuse to change. Another beautiful transformation quietly begins inside you. Gratitude becomes your natural starting point instead of worry. Before rushing into the demands of the day, you take a moment to appreciate what already exists. You become thankful for another sunrise, another opportunity to learn, another chance to grow into a wiser version of yourself. This simple habit changes the emotional atmosphere of your entire day. Because gratitude leaves little room for constant fear. Think about the people who leave the strongest impression wherever they go. It is rarely because they have perfect lives. More often, it is because they carry a quiet confidence that cannot easily be shaken. They remain steady during uncertainty. They speak with calmness instead of panic. They face setbacks without losing hope. This kind of strength is not built overnight. It is developed through countless moments of choosing trust over fear, patience over frustration, and courage over doubt. There will still be days when life feels overwhelming. Plans will fail. People will disappoint you. Unexpected problems will appear without warning. Trusting life does not mean pretending these moments do not hurt. It means refusing to believe that one difficult chapter defines your entire story. Every sunrise reminds us that darkness is temporary. Every season eventually changes. The same is true for the difficult moments in your life. They are passing through, not staying forever. As emotional maturity grows, you stop measuring your life only by achievements. Instead, you begin paying attention to the person you are becoming. Are you more patient than you were a year ago? More resilient? More compassionate? More disciplined? These are victories that no setback can take away. Success is not only about reaching destinations. It is also about the strength, wisdom, and character developed while walking the path. Gradually, trust becomes more than a positive thought. It becomes a way of living. You no longer begin each morning preparing for disaster. Instead, you prepare your heart to meet whatever comes with dignity and calmness. You stop wasting precious energy trying to predict every possible outcome. That energy is now invested in taking meaningful action, speaking kindly, working honestly, and appreciating the present moment. One day you may look back over your life and notice something remarkable. Many of the moments you once feared turned out to be the very experiences that shaped your greatest strengths. The delays taught patience. The snorts, failures taught resilience. The uncertainty taught faith in yourself. What once looked like obstacles became stepping stones that guided you toward a stronger, wiser version of who you were always capable of becoming. This is what it truly means to live as if everything always works out. It is not blind optimism. It is not pretending that life will never be difficult. It is the quiet confidence that no experience is wasted if you choose to grow from it. It is believing that every challenge carries a lesson. Every ending creates space for a new beginning.